Dana from madeeveryday.com, and I love sewing shorts. I have made a lot of shorts in my day, and today we're gonna add one more to our catalog of short styles. We're gonna make these really fun retro racer stripe shorts. You and I have sewn a lot of shorts and pants together on my website and here on my channel. We've made basic shorts, we've added a flat front, we've added pockets, piping, pajama pants. I went through my bins and pulled out some old pairs from my kids who are now teenagers, because I just can't part with these. I mean, how cute is that? This pair I made for my son, one of the original shorts from my pattern. He is now driving. And it's just so fun to revisit these and look at these old pairs. And I realized that I had never shown you one style that we are gonna do together today. This retro racer short style. I just think this little stripe on the side is really cute. So here's what you need. About 1 yard of fabric, 1 inch wide elastic, and double fold bias tape. For all of these short styles that I have shown you, I am using my kid shorts pattern, which is one you can find on my website. Go to madeeveryday.com. But you can use any shorts pattern or even a pants pattern to make all these similar styles. And what is unique about this racer style is that instead of a traditional hem, we are going to bind it at the edges here with bias tape, which you know I love. I'm always talking about it. And you can see on the pattern here, instead of cutting off at the standard line, you would cut off on this little curved line right there. Now for my daughter Clara, she's now 11 and this pattern only goes up to size 10. You guys are often asking me, how do I adjust this for a larger size? So I'm gonna show you what I did. I cut out the size 10 pattern right here. And I like to trace a lot of my patterns to cardstock. When I get my final, like, this is it, just makes it easier to cut out my fabric. So what I did, I'll start with the front here, and I traced the normal pattern first to my paper, and then I decided that I wanted to add, let's try a 1/2 inch, see how that works. I had to make a couple pairs till I figured out exactly what worked with her. And then I think she wanted them a little bit shorter, so I adjusted that by drawing my hemline up a little bit as well. I don't want to adjust at the top because that's going to be the waistband where the elastic is encased. So there you go. You can see kind of how I made those adjustments. I did the same thing to the back piece as well. So we are ready to cut out our fabric. For this pair of shorts, I'm using some fabric I designed from my collection called Pickle Juice, which is full of greens and mustard yellows and all those great 1970s vibes from my childhood memories. And I have folded it in half because I want to cut 2 fronts and 2 backs that are mirror images of each other. Now, because this scale is kind of a large scale print, what I've done is I've tried to match up the design as it repeats on the fabric so that when I cut, my 2 pieces match. They line up where the lines are. And I folded it with the right sides together because it just makes it easier when we're ready to sew. So I'm gonna take my 2 pieces and I'm gonna try to line this up so that the hem is on, I'm gonna line it up with some of the lines in the fabric, just so again, things are lining up when I sew them together. And for this one, I could put that right there. Okay, there we go. And then I like to use tape dispensers as my pattern weights since I'm using them for my paper anyways. And then I'm just gonna trace right around. Cutting my pattern on cardstock makes it so easy to trace. You could also cut this out with a rotary cutter, whatever is your go-to method. I feel like I'm always switching mine up. So there we go. Tracing those around. And then we're just gonna cut them out. Okay, we're all done cutting. Let's go to our machine. I've got my 2 fronts and my 2 backs, right sides together, and we're gonna walk through all these steps, but if you need to brush up on your skills for making shorts, make sure you check out my other videos, the basic shorts, the flat front shorts. You could add all those different styles to these. So we're gonna first start by sewing our crotch seam right here with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So I'm not gonna pin anything, I'm just coming over here and I'm just gonna go for it. Forward and back stitch. And just go all the way down. My 3/8 inch line, I'm lining up right here. I've measured with my ruler. That's a good way. You always want to check that before you start sewing. Do a back stitch at the end. Cut my threads. Love this cutting feature on my baby lock. Okay, now grab the fronts, the 2 fronts. Do the exact same thing. Little back stitch at the end, cut my threads. Now we want to press these two seams, and I've got my iron right here. I love using this wool mat. It makes it really easy to do. And here's how I like to do this. It can feel awkward because you've got this, you know, curve right there, but I like to just pull my fabric ever so slightly like this, and it just helps me go right around the curve like that. And you could do it, I'll do it the opposite way on this pair, whatever works for you. I could go like this. I can't do it the other way. I'm just gonna do it this way. Okay. Right around like that. Okay, now, we're just gonna go right into the next step. We've got, you can see right here, the front of our shorts, and we've got the back. Now we're gonna sew the next seam, which is the inseam. So I'm gonna place these, and you can tell that the back is larger than the front. And that just accounts for, you know, some little space in the back. So I'm gonna take these with right sides together again, and we're gonna sew this inseam right here. I'm gonna line up these two little seams right there, and I'm gonna kind of nest those together. I have one going one direction, one going the other. That just makes it a little less bulky when I'm sewing there. Pin those together, and then we'll place a few other pins down. And these should line up perfectly right here. Okay, and then we are gonna come back to our machine, same seam allowance, 3/8 inch, and sew right there. I'm removing my pins as I go, and just go slow on this part if you're making sure that all the layers are flat underneath. Okay, let's press this seam also. There we go. Pressing is a really important step when you are making clothing or any project. It just really gives it that polished look and makes sure that everything is fitting together properly. Okay, here's how our shorts look right now, which looks a little funny, and we have sewn this in kind of a different order than we normally do, but you will see why in just a moment. Okay, there we go, front and back. Here's where we get to pull in my favorite bias tape. Here you go. Here's a selection that I have. Some of this I've made myself, some I've bought, and if you don't know what bias tape is, I have a very detailed video that goes into all the details of how to make it, what it is, what you use it for. If you don't want to make it, you can also buy it in these little pre-made packages at your fabric shop. And for this particular pair of shorts, I'm using one of the pre-made ones because it's a cream color, and sometimes that's just a little bit easier. So what we're gonna do now is bind the sides with this bias tape. So we're gonna open this up again, and we're gonna start on the two front parts. We're gonna bind the entire sides around to the bottom, and then we're gonna come back up the back side, but we're not gonna go all the way because it's gonna get, well, one side's gonna go over the other. You'll see in just a little bit. So we're gonna open our bias tape, if I can find the opening, just like that, and place it right around the fabric. There you go, it's just binding it. So we've got no raw edges there, and then we're just gonna go straight to our machine and we're gonna start sewing it in place. Okay, so I've got my bias tape right there. You wanna make sure that the fabric is all the way tucked into that bias tape so that you're consistent as you're sewing down. And then I'm not gonna pin anything, I am just gonna start sewing. Come over to my machine, and I'm gonna sew as close to this edge of the bias tape as I can get. And as I sew, I can keep pulling this up, folding that over, and making sure that everything is evenly tucked inside. And I might even adjust over here. I might increase my stitch length to, I don't know, a 3. Okay, here we go. Okay, forward and back stitch. And then, like I said, you want to keep opening this up and making sure that your fabric hasn't, you know, left the binding. That would be problematic. And then as I'm nearing the curve here is where I want to slow down for a second. Keep tucking and pulling ever so slightly. When you're going around curves, just take your time, go slow. You can also adjust your speed control. My Baby Lock has that option right here. Okay, I'm gonna lift my presser foot there, make sure my fabric is in there, tuck it back in. Okay, just keep adjusting, fixing, tucking. You wanna go slowly so that everything looks smooth and lays flat. It helps to lift my presser foot periodically, tuck, reassess. And then in a moment, we're gonna get back on the straightaway here. Okay, so now I'm at the bottom part of the shorts. And when I get to this little seam right here, which is at the crotch area of the shorts, I'm just going to enclose all of that and just continue on to the back of the shorts. Okay, now I'm approaching the next curve. So again, I'm gonna go slow. Okay, now that I'm back on the straightaway of the back side of my shorts, I'm not gonna sew all the way up. I'm just gonna stop there, do a little back stitch, and I'm gonna trim off my bias tape right there. So eventually the other side is gonna get placed on top of that one and it's gonna be concealed. So we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. This time I'm starting at the back side of my shorts and I'm gonna start just partially down, not all the way at the top. Putting that binding around there. You can see I'm about, I don't know, 2/3 way down. Just as long as you're on the straightaway part, give yourself a little bit of room before you get to the curve. Back stitch, and then we're gonna do the same thing all the way around. Grab your pins and we're gonna work on the side seams. And this is kind of where you see the fun magic of this style of shorts come together. And first, do a quality inspection, make sure that you got everything sewn properly. If not, go back and fix those areas. So we're gonna fold these in half, like that. And what will happen is that these side seams, here's the back, the part that did not get bound all the way. We're gonna put the front side right over that. And I'm just going to try to match it up as best I can. I want to make sure that the bottom hem is even because we can't fix the hem. The hem is kind of like permanent now. So that's going to go right over there. And you can see that I'm just lining this up with the binding right there. And then I'm just going to continue it to the top. Now pinning this in place can feel a little bit awkward just because I'm going to flip it around this way. Because you don't want to pin to the back side. So you want to take your hand under it like that and just go like that. And then I'm just checking as I'm going down, pin your next one and pin it all the way down to the bottom here. And then you get that cute little flare out right there. I love that. Now we're gonna pin the other side as well. So pull that one over. This on top, and again making sure that the bottom is straight there. Now when we go to our machine, we are going to sew right down this side and we're going to stop when we get to this curved part right here. We'll do that on both sides. Come in just like this, and an important thing is to make sure you're not sewing through both layers of your shorts, so just be aware of that as you are sewing. So here we go. Remove my pins. And I am sewing on my Baby Lock Brilliant. You guys often ask which machines I use. I have the Joy and I have the Brilliant. Okay, I'm still in the straight part, but I'm getting close to the curve here. And as I was saying earlier, it's starting to get a little bunchy. Just make sure I'm pushing it as flat as I can. And when I get to here, I'm just gonna stop so that I'm not sewing too far. There we go. I'll stop right there. Cut my threads. And you can see just like that. So it flares, or it opens up like that. Okay, let's do the other side. Okay, now we just need to create our top waistband and string our elastic through. As I've shown you in my other videos, we're gonna start by pressing the casing over 1/4 inch. And if you need even more details than this, you can check out my other shorts videos, how to sew basic shorts, how to sew a flat front, how to make pajama pants. There's a lot of them. And when we get to this bias tape here, just fold that right over into the casing. I forget how quickly clothing comes together. I have been making a lot of quilts lately and it's like, wow, these shorts, we're almost done. Okay, now we're gonna press it over again about 1 1/4 inches, just enough so that we have our 1 inch wide elastic here so that that's gonna be able to get through. Maybe that's a little too big. I'll go back just a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Press that in place. Okay, we've got our casing in place, then grab your pins, and I'm not gonna pin the whole thing, but we're gonna sew this in place, but we wanna leave an opening so that our elastic can get in and out. So I'm just going to mark my start and stop points so that I don't accidentally sew it closed. Okay, let's go back to our machine. We're gonna sew right at the edge there all the way around. Okay, start at that first pin. That is our start point. And like I said, I'm just sewing really close to the edge here so we can get a wide enough casing. You got a lot of layers when you get to that side seam, so if you need to go a little slower, slow down. Make sure everything's flat. So here I am at this side seam again, like I said. If you need to go slower, just take your time with that so you don't break a needle. Use a little bit of help with your hands there to push it through. Okay, and then come back and stop at our stop point here. Forward and back stitch. Now grab your elastic. I'm using 1 inch wide elastic and I have measured my daughter's waist. I cut the elastic about 1 inch less than her waist. I know that probably sounds not right, but I've just found that as I string it through, once I overlap it to make it snug enough, that's kind of what works great. So I have 2 safety pins here. I'm gonna place a safety pin on the end of my elastic. And then we're just gonna put it right into the shorts through that hole that we have, right there. So start in this way. And then you're just gonna start pushing the safety pin through as the elastic goes around. When you get to the side seam, if it's a little bunchy, just make sure that you kind of push it open so you can get everything through. This is such an easy way to make shorts, to make skirts, to make all sorts of things. I do enjoy making the flat front version of this as well, but I don't know, I just thought it looked cute making the really basic version. When I tried them on my daughter, I was like, ah, that's adorable. So, and she liked them too. That's always the best compliment, right? When she says she's actually gonna wear them. Okay, the other end we're going to secure with another safety pin so that we don't pull it all through and it just, pulls right out the other end. That's not very helpful. So, I'm gonna take my other safety pin and I'm gonna pin that just right here at the end. Okay, then just keep going. shift everything around as you're going. We left our casing wide enough that it shouldn't be a problem, but if you made yours a little tight, it might start to be kind of a little more difficult to pull it through. You also want to make sure that your elastic is not twisted anywhere inside the casing. Okay, there it is. It's coming out the other end. So, like that, we're gonna unclip this one that we secured in place. And what I would do if my daughter was here right now is I would probably overlap these, safety pin it there, and then try it on her just to make sure that it fits right. But I have measured her, so I feel pretty confident here. But I'm gonna overlap these two ends, again, making sure nothing's twisted, and I'm gonna sew these in place with a zigzag stitch so I can adjust that right here. And I'm gonna increase my stitch length just a little bit. Okay, come down, and I'm just gonna go back and forth one time, and let's just do it another time just for good measure. Make sure it's nice and secure in there. Okay, then you can pull this in and shimmy everything around. All we have to do is sew that casing closed, but let's switch back to our straight stitch. There we go. And then just take your shorts back in. Start by sewing just a little bit on top of the line that we had already sewn. And then pull it taut so that nothing is bunched up. And make sure you're not sewing over the elastic. Back stitch. And let's see how our shorts look. Here's our cute little pair of shorts. Oh my goodness, look how awesome that racer stripe looks on the side. And these came together so quickly. I might sew a few more pairs for my daughter. I'm excited to see how she adds it into her wardrobe and, you know, mixes it up with her own style and shoes and all that good stuff. So for more ideas and tutorials, you can visit my website, madeeveryday.com. You can also grab the kid shorts pattern there. And for all of your sewing machine needs, head to babylock.com, where it's all for the love of sewing. I'll see you next time. Bye.